Hey guys, this is Dave from Orchids and Fynbos, and today I'm going to go through my dendrobiums that I have in my collection. So I've been doing quite a bit of research on the cultural requirements of dendrobiums, both the ones that I have in my collection and some of the new ones. And yeah, I'm going to let you know some of the things that I've come up with through the research, and then also let me know if you think that I could be doing things differently with some of the dendrobiums. So I have a few species and a few hybrids. So let's go through each of them and I'll tell you which section they're from, and then we can go through the cultural requirements. So the first one that I have over here is Dendrobium monoliforme, and you can see, let's just quickly show you this. You can see that it's actually starting a bud over here, so I'll keep you posted on that one. Then we have the Dendrobium Finlaya variant oculatum. See this over here. So it's produced quite a few big canes in the past. I've had this one in my collection for about 2 or 3 years now. So I think I could probably be giving it more water and more fertilizer in the growing season. We'll chat about that a bit later. Also, as you can see, these three are the mounted dendrobiums. The ones that I have potted are obviously doing a lot better, which also does speak again to the watering and the fertilizer. This one over here is Dendrobium parishi. Just to say, the yellowing of the leaves that you see is obviously because it's winter this side, so they are going through their dormancy period at the moment. That's why you'll see some of them losing their leaves. This one's a bit of a had a bit of a shameful start. Again, I've had this for about 3 years in my collection. I'll try and insert a picture of when I initially bought this dendrobium. It was very tiny. So it's taken a while to get to this stage in my collection, and hopefully I can provide it a lot more care going forward, and we will have flowers. This one hasn't flowered for me. The the Finlayanum has actually flowered for me twice. It flowers actually every year, and the monoliforme is new to my collection. I think it's about a couple of months, so this will be its first flowering for me. Then let's go down to the bottom over here. So you will see some orchids that you recognize from a recent orchid haul. So this one over here is the Dendrobium beryota, and I told you guys I would give you an update of when it starts to flower. So let's take a look at these buds. These blooms, sorry. Very pretty. And that's the Dendrobium beryota. Okay, then in the back over here we have the Dendrobium Herbiki, also new to my collection. You would have seen that in the last orchid haul. Let's see if I can get a close-up of these blooms. Also very beautiful blooms. Okay, and then some of the older dendrobiums I have in my collection are the Dendrobium Guiana. Let's say I'm hoping that this is not one of the Guianums that just puts out keikis every year, and I actually one day will have flowers. We'll talk a bit about some of the cultural notes on this one, and which I'm going to follow this year. Then my Dendrobium nobile type. I can't remember exactly what type of hybrid this is, but what the hybrid name is, sorry, but I will again insert the name for that one. And then lastly, I'm going to move this in front, we have the Dendrobium dilucatum. So the Dendrobium dilucatum flowered for me last year. This is a hybrid between the Guianum and Speciosum. See a few nice eyes there for some buds this year, so we'll just have to see how we do with the culture this year. Okay, so let's go back to the top of here. So these three, the Dendrobium monoliforme, the Finlayanum and the parishi, all require a dry winter's rest. And so essentially no fertilizer during the winter period, and they are cool growers. I think the parishi and the Finlayanum are cool to intermediate, and the monoliforme is definitely a cool grower. They again require cool nights during the winter rest period, as I said, no fertilizer, and reduced to no watering. So basically you're just watering to prevent shriveling of the bulbs, of the canes. So yeah, I will put again a summary of the culture notes after each section that I speak about. So these fall under the Dendrobium section, Dendrobium. The monoliforme is usually a little easier to flower, and I've also found that the Finlayanum is easy to flower as well. The monoliforme requires a reduced in nighttime temperature in winter to around 10 degrees Celsius or lower to create a massive flush of flowers. So to increase flowering, that's usually what you do. The Finlayanum and the parishi also require cool nighttime temperatures lower than 15 degrees Celsius to allow them to flower. Also, again, before you start watering and before you start giving fertilizer in spring, just ensure that the buds have set in fully before you start doing that. The next orchid that I have in my collection that's in the Dendrobium section is this Dendrobium nobile type. So they require a cool winter rest, and you only water again to prevent shriveling of the canes. They are warm to intermediate growers, and they flower in spring. Keep the plants cool, nighttime temperatures around 5 to 10 degrees Celsius during late winter to initiate bud. Do not fertilize until flowers are set. And one thing to note with all the Dendrobium types, be very careful with copper-based fungicides. This again has come from the AOS. They essentially say that no copper-based fungicides should be used on Dendrobiums. They are very sensitive to those types of fungicides. The next section that I have in my collection is the Dendrobium section, Dendrocoryne. I think that's how you pronounce it. These are the Guiana and its hybrids, as well as Speciosum and a few others. So the two that I have in my collection are the Guiana and this beautiful Guiana Speciosum hybrid called dilucatum. So essentially with these orchids, particularly the Guiana, which can be troublesome at times, is they need a cool winter rest. Essentially they're cool growers, so minimum night times below 10 degrees Celsius in late winter to initiate buds. They require a bright winter, and also dry winters initiate flowering. If we talk about the dilucatum, again, same story, cool winter growers. They thrive with winter nights between 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. They're spring flowering as well. Again, bright winter light, dry winters initiate flowering. Again, particularly the Guiana can be troublesome if you don't give it a dry winter's rest or cool enough temperatures to initiate the buds. So they can be a little bit troublesome. Okay, this again is the Dendrobium beryota. So So this is a complex hybrid consisting of a number of species and also a number of sections. If we briefly look at it, it has 50% Dendrobium kingianum and 25% Dendrobium bigibum and 25% Dendrobium caniculatum. So this is a very complex hybrid, and the sections that it basically emanates are section Dendrocoryne, Finlaya, and also spatulata. So again, as you can see, very different cultural requirements for each of those sections. So what this actually ends up summarizing into for this Dendrobium hybrid is that they do not require a winter rest. Essentially, you're just reducing fertilizer in winter, and they should flower between winter and spring. Also, they are warm to intermediate growers. They are not cool growers. Just give you a picture of those flowers again. Very beautiful flowers. Just out of interest sake, if I can get it over here, this roundness of the lip that you see is from the Dendrobium phalaenopsis in its background. One thing also that is quite nice about the Dendrobium species and hybrids is that almost all of them, if not all of them, have very beautiful fragrances. And so does this Dendrobium beryota. Very, very potent, perfumed fragrance, very beautiful. So as you can see, we've been going from the Dendrobiums that require a really strong or intense winter's rest, so where you're just watering to prevent shriveling of the canes, slowly towards Dendrobium hybrids, and then also species that don't require a winter's rest. So this is the last one that I want to show you. This is the Dendrobium Herbiki, which I have in my collection. This, as you would have seen, is pretty recent. I got it a few weeks back in the orchid haul that you guys have seen. And again, these beautiful flowers. Also has a very nice scent. It smells like, I don't know if anyone's had barley sweets. For me, it smells like barley sweets, which is pretty interesting. So this one is very different to the others that I have in my collection. So this one is a cross between Dendrobium bracteosum and Dendrobium lavifolium. And the lavifolium in its background is pretty interesting. It's from the Calyptrochilus group or section, whereas the bracteosums from the pedilonum section. Now the Calyptrochilus section are very interesting. They like to be constantly moist and constantly watered, and they're very cool growers. A lot of people would know about the Dendrobium Cuthbertsoni, which is also a very cool grower and struggles in warmer climates. So to talk about the care of this plant, due to the lavifolium in its background, this plant requires no winter's rest. So in other words, you do not reduce water in winter. You need to water just before it gets dried completely. Do not allow this orchid to dry completely, so water it before it dries. And then also you just reduce fertilizer in winter. They can flower, as far as I remember, throughout the year, and the flowers can last 6 to 9 months from what I've heard. So absolutely amazing little plant. And again, they're warm to intermediate growers. The warm to intermediate is because of the bracteosum in the background. So again, once you start to look at hybrids, it changes the cultural requirements of the orchid. So yeah, again, this is a very beautiful very beautiful hybrid, and the canes are supposed to reach up to maximum 8 inches, but I think this seems to be a little bigger. It's a very big plant. I received a couple of comments on my last video also. People have said this is one of the biggest, or pretty big, Dendrobium Herbiki. So So thank you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know below if you have any cultural requirement recommendations, anything you think I should change. I would really like to know. Some of the ones that I haven't actually got to flower in my collection at this point. I'm not going to talk about the new ones, obviously they're both in flower, but the monoliforme is first time flowering for me, so I think that is setting out buds, so I'll let you know if those buds mature. The one I've been struggling with are the Dendrobium parishi and the Dendrobium Guiana again is a bit new in my collection, and the Dendrobium nobile type I think has been too small to flower. It was a seedling when I received it, but hopefully this year. So mainly around the parishi. If you guys have had any experience or anything you would change with the parishi, let me know. I'm going to try and give it a very cool winter's rest this year and see what happens. So yeah, hit the subscribe button if you enjoy these types of videos. Also hit the like button if you like the video. Thank you again and keep well. Bye.